Amber Fletchock is a collage artist working from the rugged forests of central Minnesota. Inspired by the nature surrounding her, Amber's work is a response to the chaos and abundance of modern times.
I always think of my collage work as a little pause in the chaos. Most people, when they initially see my pieces, they think that they are some kind of digital print. Until they get close up, then they realize that they're collage.
One thing that her work does really well is that she's able to present all these pieces of paper that you're familiar with on a daily basis, but when she puts them together in these maelstroms and these collages, you're able to enter and continually explore this other universe.
I've been pretty much making art my whole life. Probably by the time I was 5, I knew that that's what I wanted to do with my life, because my mom was a school teacher and an artist at heart, and we were taught to use our imagination and to make. When I'm starting a piece, I find one piece that I know I want to start the piece with, and then I start going through all my files and start building off of that. I look for the parts that speak to me at that moment, going through stacks and stacks of magazines. It's just a constant building and sometimes a destroying and starting all over again. It's all very, very fluid, and it seems intuitive in a sense because it has become so much a part of my craft, and I'm always learning along the way. And I have worked on a lot of small pieces so that I could learn my design and my style and my composition and what I gravitate towards. When I was in college, I was in a life drawing class, and I remember specifically having a hard time rendering a hand. So I took a piece from another drawing and tacked it right on top, and I was instantly amazed by the distortion and the tension that it created. Later on, I decided to completely go over to collage and use paper as my main medium. People are always giving me magazines when they find out what I do for a living. I value that these things could have a second life. When I'm creating, I'm also thinking about the people who have put in a lot of energy and work into making this thing that is temporary, that becomes part of the piece too. It's almost like a collaborative work in a sense. I'm drawn to things that look like they come from nature. Fashion magazines are usually the best because there's a lot of folds and a lot of pattern work. And my new favorite thing is food and cooking magazines because there's a liquid quality, a fluidity, and there's little charred parts and great color. I'm really drawn to that. I'm fortunate to have 2 dogs that get me out every single day. So I get to see all the subtleties of the seasons changing and the drastic changes too. And they definitely help in that process of creating. My work is very reflective of that and the shapes that are found in nature. Certain times they're very, very lush, and then there's times in which things are decomposing. It will never be the same collage as the piece that you started with and knew was finished. Things change. That's probably the hardest thing. By placing things next to each other that you wouldn't think normally would work, and that's when you get those discoveries and those aha moments that this is my new direction that I go into.
Working with paper, as anyone has done, when you're a child, they have memories of Elmer's glue, and it turns out to be like a mountain of adhesive and messiness. Many people, when they approach her framed pieces, they see them as digital cutouts just because the process is done in such a pristine way. There are sometimes hidden messages or hidden chasms that people can explore visually that maybe previous to that they've never thought about. So this is an installation piece from Amber Fletchock. This is the largest scale we've had of hers in the gallery. The installation has probably been our most looked at piece in this show.
This installation was created about 2 years ago, and at the time I was grieving the loss of my mother, and I was having a hard time concentrating on my work. The process of the cutting and the act of the repetition sort of became like a meditation. When the viewer walks in, they're confronted with a dark wall, and beyond that they see a little shaft of light, and then you arrive through the blue sky, and it goes to the earth, into the grass, and then it blossoms. The whole goal is to have people experience nature, go outside, notice those little details, because it makes life more precious if we can see those things.
Prairie Mosaic is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008, the North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.